What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
This is a special interview. This is with Shannon Hansen, and he breaks down his 6 steps to powerful partnerships and hiring. I've never heard it explained like this before. And this was supposed to be just a private conversation of him lending some advice on partnerships and hiring. It was too good not to share on the podcast. So here you go. And before we get to it, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We help you run your podcast. Over the past decade, I found no better way to give to my best relationships and profile them and have them on my podcast. And, you know, I suggest anyone, if you have a business, you should have a podcast, period. So if you've thought about it, you should go to rise25.com to learn more. You can email us support@rise25.com. Here's the episode. You know, this is going to be an impromptu conversation with myself and Shannon Hansen. And we said, why not just flip on the record and let people be a fly on the wall? So if this does become an episode, this will be an episode on InspiredInsider.com. And so you can check those out. But, you know, this is one of those conversations that, and I'll have Shannon explain a little bit more about his services and what they do. But you know, from CEO, founder to founder, just willing to share what's working and what's doing really, really well. And a lot of this stuff gets shared behind closed doors and doesn't get shared openly. So Shannon is always kind enough to just want to pay it forward and pass it on. So before we dig into what's been revolutionary for your business and partnerships with what we're going to talk about, Shannon, just in case this does go live somewhere, give people an overview about your business and what you do.
Yeah. So, I mean, quick overview, lifetime entrepreneur, started out at the age of 21 in college, started my first business, put myself through college with that way back. Don't want to date myself too far, but back in a good old 1995. Went through, you know, like a typical solopreneur, went through many different businesses, couldn't even count them if I tried. Went bankrupt a number of times, was bankrupt for an entire 6-year period, which was pretty crazy for my life, and was married and just all of the family life that goes along with that. But really in about, 2012, started hitting stride of like breaking into the digital arena and figuring out how to make money online. And at that time, it was we basically broke into mortgage lead generation, and we actually still generate mortgage leads to this day. But what happened was, over the course of years, the enterprise expanded. We experienced all the growing pains that probably every business experiences when you're figuring things out, things out on your own. Get hit over the head a lot of times. You have periods of great success, and things blow up, and then you have to regroup and start over. Been through all those sort of typical entrepreneur stories of losing money, getting it back again, and sort of finding a way. And this what we're talking about today really is the product of probably all that experience. And really getting to a point where I had experienced a significant amount of success, set the 7-figure income range, which I think is fairly significant for a solopreneur, but also experiencing that blowing up and really taking a look at the pieces that were left over and going, what the heck, what happened here? You know, I had levels of success before. Thought I really was reaching a pinnacle and a place that I was going to really form a base of success to go into multiple 7 figures and on from there. And it blew up in my face. And I think that's a common story with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's probably a pretty common story. And so really what I'll share today was the learnings from that, because after it all blowing up at your face, you really take stock and look back on it and go, where did I go wrong? Like, what happened here? Because I was on such an incredible track. And, this is all after I'd gone bankrupt a number of times. And then I reached this level of success and I'm like, I got it figured out now. And then it blew up in my face again. And so what I'm going to share today really is like the culmination of that, and picking up the pieces after that was all done and going, where did I go wrong when I thought I was on such a great path? And really what's happened and what we'll talk about today is not only allowed me to just reach the sort of the next phase, the next level, but it's been out of all of my years as an entrepreneur, now it's 26, 7 years now, it's been I want to say the smoothest, most predictable, most enjoyable, most fulfilling portion of my career after sort of figuring these things out. And it's expanded past our internal business into all the partnerships that we have now. The partnerships just run so smoothly. The opportunities just keep getting bigger and bigger, and life just really keeps getting better and better without sort of working more, risking more. It's like the difficulty level is like going down. It's like this divergence of the difficulty level going down and the results and the fulfillment going up. So I don't know if that captures everything for you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if someone else is listening to this, then obviously we publish it live. But one of the things we were talking about was how this system and process has been amazing for partnerships, but also how you've used it from a staff perspective and retaining staff and keeping staff happy. And lucky for everyone else, maybe, because John couldn't be on the call. So I was like, can we record it? And so he can actually listen to it afterwards as well. So, so I'd love for you to kind of what you were, kind and generous enough to walk us through what's working with partnerships, but also that same process that you're using for your staff. And I just want to comment on your journey for a second. It's always the 15-year success overnight situation, and kind of hashtag t-shirt for you, hashtag entrepreneurship, which is, one day is amazing, one day is crazy, and crap hits the fan, then it's amazing. So it is what it is.
Yep, very true. So this, we'll just jump into this, Jeremy, if you don't mind. The acronym that we use is CRAMPS. It's CRMPPS, but we call it CRAMPS. It originated from the staffing point of view. I'd gone through this big blow up in the business. And essentially what happened was, in a short period of time, I lost 3 to 4 like top level people in my organization. And it just blindsided me. I was just like, not only did we didn't have the capacity to fill those positions internally, but it was just like, how could all this happen all in the period of like 6 months? And this just really caused myself and my business partner to reevaluate, like, how did this happen? Because this all happened at once. Like, it wasn't just one person left and another person left, and it happened over a couple years of time. It happened all at once. Like 3 or 4 top level people left all at once, and here we are in shambles. That really just forces you to go, what in the world happened? Because obviously I was involved in this picture somehow. It wasn't just like, well, there was one person, they were a bad apple and they left or whatever. I couldn't justify it with that. Like, I had to take that really hard look at it. And so we really started breaking down what were the things that went wrong in these people. And it really went back to the selection process. And that's where it started. We hired wrong to begin with, but what was it? Could we put our finger on it, and could we correct it moving forward? Could we do it deliberately so that we avoid those situations in the future? We really had some really deep digging to do, and what we came up with is called CRAMPS. It's a pretty simple system. There's 6 factors to it. It's a very simple scoring system. There's 5 out of the 6 factors that are very simple and pretty straightforward to score. And there's one factor that's more challenging. It really is a skill that has to be, I've found, learned. But it's something that it's not a terribly difficult skill to learn, but it is a skill that has to be learned nonetheless. But we found that when an individual comes into our organization who fits the CRAMPS model, we went from a 30% retention rate of employees to over 80%. So that alone is huge, because we're not experiencing all of this sort of attrition of people leaving it, and sometimes after years being with the company, which is even more damaging than if they leave, after a few months. But that's where everything really actually started to get better. What we realized is, like, after a period of time of using this process, what happened was our organization, if you think of it like we had a dirty pond to begin with, some of the bad apples left, the pond got a little bit cleaner, but we still had some cleaning up to do. Over a period of time, we were able to sort of eject all of the rest of the sort of contaminants in this pond and only allow fresh water into the stream that fits our criteria. It took us about a year to really see that this was actually starting to work, and the pond was getting cleaner. And what happened was our organization, really just the culture in the organization became so, I don't even know words to describe it, like obviously incredibly more effective. If you were to sit on one of our team calls, before and after, you go, this is not the same company. It's a totally different company. Team calls now are more, I think, like playtime than anything else. And I think that just goes against the grain of probably every notion of sort of corporate America. It's like, this is business time. We need to be serious here. On our conference calls, you'll hear people frequently cracking jokes, laughing. It's just our I want to say our culture, but the atmosphere that's on our calls is just so incredibly positive. There's nobody in the organization that anybody else is sort of afraid to approach or doesn't want to work with, or are difficult to work with. The sort of alignment of the entire organization was just crystal clear, clarified. Everybody's on the same page, and everybody wanted to be there. There's nobody who's like just punching the clock to get their hour, dollars per hour or whatever it is. There's no more of those people in the organization. We really just have a team filled with passionate people, and a lot of that is because they come from other places. Like, everybody's been through different positions or different companies and had different company experiences. And they come into our company, and at first it seems like, what's up with these people? Like, they're laughing, they're cracking jokes. Like, I don't get this. Is this like a show, or is this is this for real? And it tends to take like 3 to 4 months before people go, wow, this wasn't just a one-time thing. This wasn't like somebody's birthday party or whatever. It's just constant. And they come into the organization really at that point, and they realize what we're doing. And because of that, we created an organization that really is sort of self-cleansing, I would say. In the odd event that we hire wrong and bring somebody in who's not a fit, the organization will eject that person because they don't line up. And we're pretty good at recruiting and prospecting and bringing people into the company, but still we're like 80% good. Like, there's 1 in 5 that we do have to let go of. But the point of it is that the organization actually I'll have people come to me or to one of the managers and go, this person, we thought they were going to be a fit, but they're just not working out. So we'll be able to eject them quickly. We keep the pond really clean. And the great thing is that the pond is so clean, everybody's all on the same page, enjoying the heck out of what we're doing. The productivity levels and the effectiveness levels, we're in performance marketing, and we're looking at every dollar we spend today and how many dollars that's generating, at least in one of our larger businesses. Our effectiveness at turning that advertising dollar into return on investment has just skyrocketed. Our average ROIs on our campaigns are just through the roof. and just the overall effectiveness of the organization has gone up just quantum leaps, essentially, in effectiveness. So that's where it started. And then once we got this amazing sort of success out of this, it really took really started like about the 2-year mark after coming up with this system. It became more refined. We really started seeing the results, and then it started going, wow, how else can we apply this? And we started applying it to our external partnerships in other companies that we're partnered in, and we just found similar results. I mean, it's just almost like crystal clear alignment, no friction with external partners, very high performance partners that we're able to sort of attract with this, experts in their particular parts of business. And we're able to, sometimes I just pinch myself. Some of the people I've been able to partner with, I just go, wow, I mean, they're so good at what they do. And we're able to partner with them mostly because of Cramps and how we select them. So we'll go through the Cramps model. It started as a recruiting model, but really it's like at this point it's like human selection model. Like, this is what we use. This is what I use for everyone that I consider that we're going to work with in any fashion, whether it be a client, a partner in a company, or an employee. We use the same formula, and everything fits within that. And sometimes you'll find a person who doesn't score well enough in this to justify being a partner or an employee. And that's okay, because you can still have them as a client, for instance, or you can still have some kind of relationship with them. It's just that they'll never come into your inner circle and sort of muddy up your waters in your pond, so to speak. So there's 6 factors to the scoring on Cramps. It's a very simple scoring system. It's just we score each one of these factors. We'll go through them. We score each one on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is the highest possible score. We average the results after we score each one of the criteria. And a person cannot score less than a 7 out of a 10 in any one particular area. So if they're a 1 out of 10, if they're a 10 out of 10 in 5 areas and they're a 1 out of 10 in the other area, that's still a no-go as far as a partnership or an employee. So 5 out of these 6 are going to be pretty straightforward. Like, you're going to look at them, you're going to go, that makes sense. That's pretty straightforward. And they're pretty easy to score. One other thing we found with this is when you're interviewing people, you'll quite often find that, if you've got multiple people interviewing you've got multiple people on your staff who are interviewing for somebody coming into the company, you'll find that their Cramp scores for this particular prospect or recruit are very similar. So it has this effect of like, when you start scoring people in this way, it's like the team just really gets in alignment much easier. It's not like, oh, one person liked him, the other person didn't. Everybody's pretty much on the same page after you score this. So 5 out of 6 are pretty simple. The C is for coachable. And coachable is a pretty simple one to score. There's just two things that I look for in an interview or in the partnership. One is, do they ask questions? And 2, do they take feedback? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You'd be surprised how few people will encourage people to ask questions on interviews. Highly encourage them at the beginning of the call. We love questions. Please, if you have any questions during the process, give them to us, and you won't hear a word out of them. People who don't ask questions aren't typically coachable. And so if they don't ask any questions, if you can't force them to answer a question, people sometimes are so wrapped up in their own minds that they're like, oh, I'll be too embarrassed. They could be too embarrassed to ask a question. They could think that they're too smart to ask a question. All of those are uncoachable, unfortunately. And feel free to stop me anytime, Jeremy.
I was going to say on that, you mentioned embarrassing. What if they're just like really shy and really passive when they first meet someone? I mean, it probably depends on the position you're hiring for. Like, obviously, if it's like a customer support person, you don't necessarily want someone who's super shy, but let's say they're running back end ads for you. Like they don't probably need to talk to someone,
Right.
and it's okay for their position for them to be shy.
So here's where we test this. Actually, I'll skip ahead to here that the first P is problem solving. And during the problem solving scoring, and the problem solving can differ depending on whatever the position is. So, it may be an Excel skills test. If a person's a virtual assistant, it could be anything. It just really depends on the particular position. But what we do there is we stump the person. We put them to the test. We give them something that's quite difficult, some kind of a quite difficult problem to solve. And if they're unwilling, and we, again, before we do the problem solving section, we'll again encourage questions. Like if you have any questions about this exercise or whatever, please ask them. And we'll stump them.
Yeah.
And if they won't raise their hand when they're stumped, it's a no-go because
it's a force function to, if most likely if someone doesn't know how to do it, then you almost are forced to ask questions or you're just not going to complete it essentially.
And sometimes they won't know how to do it and they still won't ask a question. And that obviously it gets a little uncomfortable. Like you may have to end the call early. But there's also the people who's they're smart people. You can tell they're smart, but we've intentionally put them to the test. But even if they're smart and they still won't raise their hand, it's still a no-go because what's going to happen is like that person's going to come up against problems somehow, whether it's a problem in the workplace or it's a problem with their job, their actual task that they're doing. They're going to come up against problems. And if they can't will themselves into going, I need to talk to the expert here, maybe it's HR or whoever it is, if they can't raise their hand, they're going to sit in quiet, completely stuck on it, and they won't tell anybody because they're too proud to admit that that they couldn't figure it out. Especially if they're a smart person, if they come off as smart, they don't want to be seen as stupid because they can't figure it out. So they'll spend wild amounts of time and energy and effort trying to figure out something they could have just raised their hand and spoken to the correct person in the company and got the answer to so quickly and been so much more effective. So, so I'm glad you asked that
so like
question.
these are all interrelated. It's not like in order. So I'll let you go through all of them,
Sure.
and I'll save my questions because they're
Stop me anytime.
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
they are related. And so if you come up with a question, please stop anytime.
Yeah.
That's a good one because actually the problem solving section, if a person hasn't asked any questions throughout the rest of the interview, I'm sitting there going, okay, are we going to hear some questions now in the problem solving section or not? Because it kind of becomes a game changer at that point if a person has not been willing to ask questions. And similarly with partnerships, the interesting thing with partnerships is frequently, I'm a 7 out of 10, by the way. And I had to probably work on myself to be a 7 out of 10 because I think a previous life I was less than that. I think most entrepreneurs rank actually less than 7 out of 10 on average. They're not quite willing to be coached. And then you have the people who are like sort of the habitual info product buyers who are, they're looking to be taught the next thing, the whatever. They're probably super coachable, but it actually is to their detriment because they're just like, oh, please tell me how to do something. And you need a certain amount of chutzpah. Like, I'm going to figure this out. Nobody's going to tell me how to figure this out. But it's a balance there, especially with partners. I like to see a 7 out of 10. I'm a good partner because you can challenge me and I'll go back and I'll think about it and I'll go, okay, I get it. You're actually the stronger partner in this relationship in this way, and you're the better one to handle this. But I'm also the guy who's like, well, I want to figure this out and I want to do it on my own. So I've got that balance. And I think good partners, if you're looking at partnerships, I like this 7 out of 10. With team members, they got to be at least a 7 out of 10. The whole problem, backing up slightly to the number scale and how we score these people, and they have to be a 7 out of 10 or higher. The problem with 6 out of 10s is you need A players in your business, and they need to be an 8 plus in order to qualify as an A player. They've actually got to score 8 out of 10 or better on average throughout this, and I need an 8 out of 10 plus person. So if a person comes in and they're a 6 out of 10 coachable, I can probably get them to a 7 out of 10, just that one number difference. But getting them to go from a 6 to an 8, the probability of it happening and the sort of resistance that you encounter in trying to sort of make that happen, it just makes it not worthwhile. It's a risky bet. It's probably going to take a lot of time. And the person's, if they're a 6 out of 10 coachability, there's a good shot that they're just going to leave when you start pressing them to be more coachable. So that's how come 7 out of 10 or greater. I can get a 7 to an 8. 7 out of 10, they're already reasonably effective. Getting them to go to an 8 is usually pretty easy. And you might be able to get them to go to a 9, which is great. But that's how come we're 7 out of 10. So the R part, moving forward here, R is for reliable. And this, like I said, a lot of this it is common sense, but we just don't sit and break it down and have to score. And simple things that you can look for in a person's resume or in their professional life, like you and John, partners for 10 years. That's a significant amount of time. I look at resumes and I go, how many has this person had 3+ years at a particular job, position, company, whatever? 3 years plus for me is an indication of reliability. It's not necessarily the game changer. I mean, I'm still going to I'm going to have additional questions for them. But 3+ years, I'm looking for that on their resume. If they're really young, there's a chance they haven't had a chance. They haven't had an opportunity at a decent company to be able to stay 3 years. So it's not necessarily like if I see a young VA or virtual assistant's resume and they're 22 and they don't have a 3-year stint, it's not a game changer there or a deal breaker, but I will be testing it on the interview. And the simple way we test is we just tell them to show up 15 minutes early. And do they show up early for the call or don't they? I mean, we probably a lot of us have had these interviews where the person shows up late or they don't show or they have some excuse. I mean, look at your numbers and go, how many of those actually worked out? Because the person will almost always beg for, I just got caught up. So-and-so was at the hospital and my dog died on the way and I got into a car crash. And I don't know how much of that is true, but what I can tell you is from the numbers, the people who don't show up early for their interviews, it's like just an exceedingly rare chance that they're going to show up for the second one. So we do not schedule a second interview. I just don't do it, no matter what the song and dance is or who died. I mean, it is kind of unfortunate if somebody did actually die, but I suspect that a lot of these things are actually excuses and that nobody actually died. Nobody actually went to the hospital. Nobody actually got in a car wreck. I don't know, but I can just tell you that from the numbers, they don't show up early. It's just really, really rare that they're going to work out.
Let me stick on the reliable for 1 second. What's the process before the interview? Because they may show their colors before. I don't know if there's emails or other things that they have to give you that weeds them out.
That's a great question. I have my executive assistant, basically, she sorts through all the candidates. And one of her qualifications is, in anybody who responds to one of our job postings or ads, she will have specific instructions within that posting of what to do. And it's usually, respond with this particular 3 pieces of information. And if they don't respond with the 3 pieces of information, they're out. Like, you got to respond with the 3 things we asked for. They respond with the 3 things. She does some initial screening to just go, does this person's resume look like it works out or whatever? Some just very basic initial screening. And if it looks like they may be a candidate, what she will do is she will go to them kind of on last minute notice, and not necessarily last minute, but she'll go, look, we're interested in interviewing you. We have these time slots in the next 48 hours. Which do you choose? And frequently what we find actually is the people who are actually really reliable, they'll go, give me the first one. I'll make time. I'll break out of work. I'll do, whatever. I'll do the Zoom in the parking lot or wherever. They'll make time for it. So frequently, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but frequently what we find is people who go, first one, whatever the first one is, I want to be there. Now, if they go, well, I don't know, I can't, none of those times work for me or whatever, it's disqualification. Like if you can't find a time, find a way to make this happen, to get on the interview, how reliable really are you? Because that's what a really reliable person is, right? When they're challenged, they find a way to still come through on the thing that they promised, right? So that's what you want. So that's some sort of pre-filtering there that we do, and we typically
because that's almost like three different. Some people, Shannon, won't even respond. So they filter themselves out. Some people respond with the wrong information. They filter themselves out. And then some people will, at that point of let's schedule something, like, well, I'm not sure. I can't make it happen. So there's kind of almost three filters even before they get to the interview part of the reliability.
Yep. And just to break the numbers down, just in rough brushstrokes, for a particular job posting, we'll typically get like 200 resumes or responses back to it. Out of those 200, my assistant will she'll filter it down through those three basic things to about 12 people. And out of those 12 people, about half of them won't show up to the interview at the time that was required. And that's now we're down to 6 people. And out of those 6 people, we will generally have 1 to 2 hires. It's not a guarantee. It's really a rough rule of thumb. But we typically see 1 to 2 who are hireable. And out of those 2 people, we've gotten a lot better at it. It used to be like we'd end up letting, if we hired 2, we'd let 1 go within 90 days. But now we're pretty dialed in on this, and there's not. I can think of 1 person we did have to let go after we hired them. But it's really, now I'm thinking about it, like our hiring percentage is really quite high. It's probably near 80%. Like when we hire, we don't have to let people go because we really screened them so well. Okay, so the M I'm gonna skip over because it's the trickiest part. We'll go through the last 2 here really quickly because they're they're simple and straightforward, and then we'll get into what the M is for. Probably the most intriguing part of the formula. It's the skill-based part. It takes some skill. You have to actually learn how to do it in order to be effective at it. I'll get to it in a minute, what it is. But the other P is just personability. This is a really simple one. And all it is would you invite this person over for dinner at your house? Would you mind spending an evening with them, conversing, talking, sharing, life stories, whatever you want. It's a very simple one. And people tend to really agree on, like, if you have a team who's interviewing these candidates, almost always the personability one, people will really agree. Like their numbers will be very consistent on how they score people there. And then S is for superpower. And not everybody has a superpower. And that's okay. I probably should have given it a different color here because the S is optional. I've got plenty of people on the team who don't necessarily have superpowers. They're great team members, super reliable, just awesome for the company. But they don't necessarily have a superpower. They're dependable, or they're well skilled. They bring a great attitude to the team. But there are people in every organization. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have experienced this, whose their potential and their potential for driving the company forward in maybe one particular area is phenomenal. Like I've got a few of these people, and they make huge differences in your company in that one particular way that they're just so, it's just like they were just born to do that. Like my assistant, just her organizational level is just on another level. I'm not a super organized person. Maybe that's how come I appreciate it so much. But her organization level is stratospheric compared to mine. I've just got other people who are just incredible in other different ways that I could never approach their effectiveness. So not everybody has a superpower. You can sometimes see it come out on a call though, or a recruiting call. You get off the phone and you're like, wow, that person, they could really, they could really turn this division, this team up another notch, those kinds of things. So if they don't have a superpower, it doesn't go against them. If there's no superpower, that's fine. We'll score on the top 5. We'll average on the top 5, and we take that part out. So it doesn't go against them. But if they do have the superpower, I'm definitely going to keep that in mind for where I place this person and how I have a team push them. Maybe they've got great leadership potential. I don't know. But we'll take that in consideration with how we're going to work with them and what kind of things we're going to give, put on their plate, because we want to basically leverage that superpower.
You find, Shannon, with that, the superpower, sometimes it's not apparent on the initial call and it comes out later, or is it something that you find typically is glaringly obvious from the beginning?
Yeah, it's kind of like 50-50 shot. Like sometimes you see people, you're like, holy crap, I know where this person can go. It's just clear as day. Like they're so good at one thing. And a lot of times they don't see it themselves for whatever reason. It's kind of odd. So yeah, like half the time that's the case. And then, probably a good half the time as well. Like we got one individual I'm thinking of who came over. He was in a sales position previously. And quite honestly, this was kind of before we actually had cramps in place. I wasn't convinced that he was a fit to hire, but he had a great energy to him. And it turns out it was that energy. He is just like super motivated teams, and I can move him from one team to another, and he'll make the second team incredibly motivated and incredibly effective, and then he'll move on to another team. Like, I did not see that coming, and we were able to pull it out of him. But looking back on it, it was a superpower. Like, this guy can turn up the energy. I mean, you just can't. He's just got that infectious energy, and he's learned how to sort of turn it on and like take it to another level. And that's one of the things we worked with him on, was like, hey man, you got this gift. I don't think you realize that you have this gift. I don't think you realize how much of an effect you have on people. But test this out. Purposefully amp up your energy on a call and just listen and observe how the rest of people on the call respond to that. And it was just I remember doing that experiment with this particular person. And he got off the call and he reached out to me. He's like, it's like, I'm blown away. Like, I never knew that I had this power. I'm like, yeah, I could see it. You did, but I could see it. So that's what the superpower is about. Not everybody has it. That's okay if they don't necessarily have it. They don't have to have a superpower. There's plenty of just solid, dependable people who will do their job and then some, who don't necessarily have a superpower. So the M is the trickiest one, and the M stands for motive. And motive, this piece is really like you could take the rest of them, and I think if you took motive out, it might still work. Like you definitely get better people, but the motive part is really what makes this whole thing work. And motive, to me, is just what makes a person do what they do. And just as a side note, people can have more than one motive. They frequently do. Probably the standard is that a person will have one primary motive. They may have some secondary motives that aren't, they're not, I won't say they're insignificant, but if you view this like as a horse race, and you've got a horse that's out in front by 7 or 8 lengths, that's the primary motive. Like you've got this primary motive, it's out in front, it's driving the person so heavily that all the other motives that they might have are really a distant second, and they almost are insignificant. Now, there are other people who have motives that are much closer to each other. Like it's a race for first and second. We don't know which one at any point in time might be winning the race. And there are also, it's rare, pretty exceedingly rare, but I have a partner in an agency business right now who actually has a triple motive. And she's got 3 of these things and they're really close to each other. And depending on what the motives are, that can be really great for a business, but it can also be really distracting if they're constantly sort of fighting it out. And there's a list. I'll be happy to share the list of like common motives. I'll go through a few of them here. I'll go through some of the no-goes. If I see a person with some of the no-go motives, the whole deal is off. I don't care if it's Jeff Bezos. I don't care who it is. Like if they've got a motive that's on my no-go list, I won't be a partner with them. Maybe I can have them as a client. That's potential. I have some clients who have motives that are on my no-go list, and they're fine. But when you really start digging into motive and you get some experience around it, you start to learn how to work with pretty much everybody. You won't necessarily invite them into your inner circle or be a partner with them. But I'll just share, like one of the common no-go motives is power and control. These people who want to dictate everything, control the deal, and it's all power driven. It's a no-go. I can't recruit that. That person can't be a part of my team. They definitely won't be a partner of mine because you'll constantly be in this battle of who's got power and control in the company. And you're like, how did I get pulled into this? Because I'm not somebody who's normally wants to be like have all the power and control, but I feel like I'm being controlled by this other person, and now I have to put all this energy into it. Power and control is a common one. These people, I use power and control all the time as an example with the team because these people, when they come across, they're fairly they're fairly rare. But when they come across, they just leave this indelible print in your mind. You're just like, oh, God, I don't like that person because they just walk all. If you allow them to, they just walk all over you, and it just feels crappy. So everybody's had experience with those people, but to really hone it in and go, what makes this person tick? They need more power and control. That's what drives them. Everything they do is another step in getting power and control, and they don't care if it's over a person, over a business deal, over whatever. Everything in their mind is about power and control. And when I really realized this, and I really started digging into it further with a power and control motive, I realized, well, the interesting thing is that motives will drive, like a person who has a power and control motive, they will go towards power and control, and they will run the other direction away from lack of power and control. So you can strategically drive a negotiation, a sale, anything like this, because power and control motives, and actually all of the motives that are on the list, people respond incredibly predictably to their motive. I know that a power and control person will move towards a position of what they see as power and control, and they will move away from a position of not being in power and control. And a simple example of this, if you're in sales, is the takeaway. You do a takeaway on a power and control person and go, look, either you buy it today or or you buy the ad today, or it's going to press in the morning and it'll be out of my hands. You won't be able to do it in the morning, so you want to do it or not. It's the takeaway that they're going to lose control and lose power unless they buy that ad that day. They will buy that ad almost 100% of the time, so predictably, incredibly predictably. Now, it's uncomfortable because you have to put them in this position intentionally and strategically, but they're so predictable. And so I like having them as clients because I know exactly how they function and I know exactly what needs to be done. And it's like every month needs to be another deadline. And you let them know the deadline, and they do the thing. It's always right at the last minute because they don't want to give you that power and control, all the way through. They want to do it last minute. It's so predictable, but I know they're going to buy at the last minute every time. Just very predictable. Other no-go motives, attention. Plenty of people who just thrive off of attention. Many times that will come through in just their level of dress. It's just like people who like have this level of dress or makeup or jewelry or perfume that just like, it's just like stands out. Like you can't not look at this person or not give them attention. Usually they have attention motive, and they will respond. You giving them more attention will give them more energy. You taking attention away from them will piss them off. Either way, they won't get hired into my organization that way. Not sure really about having clients. Those kind of clients, the thing about the power and control people is they're usually fairly successful because they've gotten a lot of power and control, and they have money and resources. So they do make great clients because they got the money for it. The people who have an attention motive, they spent all their money on the clothes and the jewelry and everything, and they don't have anything left over to be clients. So they're not usually great clients. They're not great to, not good to have on the team. I don't think I have enough time to go through all the motives. There's about a dozen that are pretty common. One of the more interesting ones is, I call it smart guy motive. The thing about people who want to appear, they either want to appear smart to other people, or they want to convince themselves that they're smart. They can be insidious, because one of the things that smart guy motives will do is they will attempt to manipulate situations through third parties, where they stand back and they go, ha ha, this is all going to plan, and my henchmen are out there doing the dirty work for me, and nobody knows that it's me because I'm so smart. That's one of the behaviors of smart guy motives. I've been caught by that a couple times when it just like the deal didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the people really had the authority to go through with the deal. And I'm like, what's going on here? Feels like they're not able to close the deal. Come to find out, it was this third party person who was manipulating all of them and wanting to sort of stay in the shadows. So that's kind of can be an insidious one, but they're also smart people. And if you get onto this and you realize that this is some of the games they play, the gig kind of becomes up. You're like, okay, I know what you're trying to do, and I see through it. But some of the motives we love to hire, people who have help motives. I haven't talked to you and John in a while since we really went into this, but suspect that there's very strong help motives between the two of you. I'm not sure if they're primary, but there's definitely some help motives going on there. You guys like to help people. Creative motives. That one can be, that can surface in a number of different ways. I mean, maybe they want to create the world's biggest business. Maybe they want to paint a painting. Maybe they want to be a writer, graphic designer. Creative motives are great. The thing about creative motives is they have to be focused. And you as a business owner or a partner, if you have a partner or an employee who's got a creative motive that's like a primary creative motive, you have to keep them focused. Otherwise, they just keep painting that canvas and they're never done with it, right? So you have to keep those people focused, but they also can produce some amazing, just stunning graphics and writing and who knows what else that they can produce. Growth motives. I lump growth and achievement together. They're pretty closely related. There's some nuances, but I love growth and achievement motives. People who want to grow, they usually want to grow personally. We're big in performance marketing. They want to grow their stats. They want to grow their revenue, their return on investment. They get off on that. So those are big ones that we hire for. So it's like help create growth and the growth and achievement motives. Those are all great motives. Hard to go wrong unless, like with the creative motive, you don't focus them, then they'll get off track. There's also curiosity motives. My partner is, I think, one of the only people who I've met who has a primary motive of curiosity. He's curious about everything. bioscience, astronomy, nuclear physics, computers. Like, this is my CTO, very curious about computers. He's curious about everything. His bookshelf is a mile high of books that he's a quarter of the way through because he's just so curious. He goes on to another book. And curiosity motives, similar to creative motives, you have to keep them focused. Okay, so figuring out, number one, you have to figure out what the motive is. And number two, you got to score this person. How do you score them? Well, I'll give you cues on the motive. The motive, in order to figure out what a person's motive is, you really have to start asking them questions and listening for increases or decreases in energy. And I find if you actually just listen, the actual increases or decreases in energy are pretty apparent if you're actually listening to them and going, okay, what was it before the question? What was it after the question? If I got somebody who's a growth motive, or I think they're a growth motive, and I go, well, tell me, tell me what your plans are for the next year. I mean, where do you look? Are you looking to grow your business? And you'll frequently go, oh yeah. You'll get an answer like, oh yeah, you heard my energy go up. It's like, oh yeah, I'm planning on growing this business. I got plans to take it to the moon. So you hear that energy rise, and sometimes you can also sense the drop in energy too. But that's the hallmark. When you hit somebody's motive and you start, it's a little bit like the scientific method. You form this hypothesis. I think this person might be a growth motive, so I'm going to ask them growth-related questions and see if their energy level goes up. And if I was accurate, I'm going to hear energy go up. And if I was not accurate, then I need to go back to the drawing board and ask some different related questions. Maybe they like to create, and maybe I need to ask them questions about that. Like, what do you do in your off hours? Oh, I'm a musician. You write your own music? Yeah, I love to write music. Okay, you're a creative motive. I get it. So you got to figure out the motive, and I found that prospecting and recruiting is the perfect place to do this because you meet all different kinds of people. I'm not a super social person. Maybe people who are more outgoing would just have the opportunity to do this more often. I'm an introvert, so I don't I'm not around a bunch of people to test this out. But when I get into prospecting and recruiting, I get to basically kind of ask people whatever questions you want, obviously within boundaries. So you get to play around with this and listen again for the increases or decreases in energy and figure out, again, going back to the horse race, what are this person's motives? Frequently, it'll be one motive that's a primary motive. The rest of the motives are kind of out of the picture in distant second. And you really have to think about that one motive. You get people who have got a double motive or two pretty strong motives. You kind of have to think about how do those motives relate to each other? Does it cause conflict in this person? I've got one partner who's got a creative motive and a curiosity motive. Those, as long as they're focused, they can be very potent. But other people, I've got another partner who's a growth and help motive, which is actually similar to my motives. I got a primary motive of achievement, which is similar to growth. I have a secondary motive of helping other people, but there's a fair amount of distance there. They're still in the race together, but they're not like neck and neck. This partner that I'm speaking of, they're neck and neck, like constantly. And this guy is constantly going, well, do I want to grow my business or do I want to go help these homeless people? And it's like, and then I'm hoping that homeless people, I'm like, oh shoot, I got to get back to my business because it's falling apart. It's tormenting to him. And I don't know how to change the motives. I'm not sure on that part, but you have to put this picture together of this race of like, what are these motives and what's the distance between them and how do they work together? Is this person going to be able to be effective? That's really the question. How do you score a motive? Is how is that person's motive going to benefit the business? And in that particular business, or it really is position, whatever it is that you're wanting to partner with them or hire them for, how are those motives going to benefit that position? And that's how you score the motive situation. And I'd like to go for, the further I go along in this, you'll find people who you figure out what their motives are, but it's just kind of like none of them are really strong. Like they're not really strongly driving this race. Like the race is kind of moving along, but like the people who are watching are kind of bored to death. You don't want those people. You want somebody who's got this strong motive that's in alignment with your business model. And you find that, you're like, holy crap, maybe this guy's got a superpower or gal, and this is just, it's going to be awesome. And when you do that, what you find is that when you match that person, I call it motive architecting, basically, is I'm looking for the person, what position are they going to go into? Are they going to be a partner? How are they going to work with the rest of the team, whoever that might be, knowing what their motives are? You need to know that, because if you put a bunch of creative motives all on one team, they're just going to all sit there and paint the canvas all day long. And if there's nobody on that team to focus them, you're gonna have a great, highly creative team, but not super effective. So you need to put that in context of that person's motive and the people they're going to be working with. Are they going to be working with somebody who's got like a growth motive and goes, yeah, great, let's keep focused on these designs or these articles or whatever it is so we can move forward? You got to put those two people together. And this is where I find the most intriguing thing, and how come I've been so successful with the partnerships and the staffing and the recruiting, is I'm the puzzle maker. I'm putting these pieces of the puzzle together and seeing where these strong fits are, that you're not force fitting the two puzzle pieces together. They just go together like peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and chocolate. And when they do, it's just like building a puzzle. When you put those last pieces together and you're like, oh, it's complete. It's beautiful. Whereas if it was missing that one piece before, you're like, oh, it's like so close to being beautiful, but that piece is missing and I don't know what it is. You put the pieces together and it's just like, this is beautiful. This partnership's beautiful. This team is beautiful. This business division is beautiful. I look at, like, my wife and I have just celebrated 19 years of marriage. I'm like, oh, I look back and I'm like, I wasn't intentionally using cramps back then, but I go, yep, we're a match. I'm an achievement and health motive. My wife is primarily a health motive. And God knows I needed a lot of help to get through all the times that we were broke and all that stuff. And she was there. Like, she was there helping me. If it had been another growth motive or something, we probably would have butted heads. You know, I can see so clearly now looking back on it to go, I see how come we've been successful. And, you know, like I said earlier, I had John here, I would probably dig into both your motives and I could tell you guys, how come you guys have been successful 10 years together? I could go, well, I see how these motives, they just line right up together. And, you know, you guys are two peas in a pod. Anybody who knows you guys would say that, but they wouldn't really realize the fundamentals underneath it to break it down and go, oh, okay, I see now how come they work so well together. So that's cramps. And
Shannon, that's amazing. I could hear, I know I want to respect your time. I could hear the rest of the motives all day long, but I mean, you shared, I think 7 of the 12 or whatever it is. So when you create this book one day, they'll have to read and get all 12. But just 2 quick things. One, I don't know if there's any specific things on the scoring that you want to talk about, like when we look at these. And I had a question on the motives on the dark side of the motive. Maybe that maybe appears that would be good, but maybe it's not for certain positions. So, you know, for instance, let's say growth or achievement is good. You're the owner, but if you're hiring a growth and achievement, does that mean, you know, is that person really going to create longevity in your business? So, like, is there a dark side to some of these motives in that example, depending on the position you're hiring?
Yeah, like when you really start looking at this and you pin down the motives, you start to realize that every motive has its strengths and weaknesses. Part of the achievement motive weakness is that I get off on tiny achievements. And for a long period of my life, I was just like, I'll get through today if I get this one little thing. And I would feed myself off of these tiny kernels of achievement. And they scratched my itch. And to this day, the company could be doing $100,000 a year. It could be doing $100,000 a minute. And that both of them can be an achievement, but that the difference in the feeling that I get from those two achievements is basically the same. So I can kind of take the easy way out with all the tiny achievements. And I did that for a long time. It wasn't until I really started realizing that I had this help motive that I realized, wow, if I can help my team do better, and they can provide more revenue for the company, I can actually provide more for them and for their families. That really sparked me to go, okay, now I really need to achieve some big things, because I need to help. We have a lot of people offshore in the Philippines and Pakistan. And I go, I need to help these people be able to put their kids through college, to buy homes and all these kinds of things. So dark side, yes, there's dark sides to all of them. There's strengths and weaknesses to all of them. Yeah, you mentioned, well, what if the person's just got a really strong growth motive? And if there's not something else to back that up, like a help motive or create motive or some other key thing that your organization is going to give to them. Like in our case, we got like lots of opportunities to lead in leadership roles in the company. So if you got the primary motive to grow and the secondary motive to help others, I got plenty of opportunities for it. You're going to be able to help lots of people. You'll be able to see that you're helping them, which is kind of rare and unique. So that's going to scratch that itch for them. And then when they're getting both of those itches scratched, and somebody inevitably comes and tries to, headhunt them or take them away to another company or whatever, they go, I don't know over there. I mean, I like the idea of making more money or whatever, but like, what will the team environment be like? Will I be in the same leadership position? Because I really get a lot of payoff from being in the leadership position. And if the answer is no, they'll be like, man, and will the environment be like it is here? Like, will I be so well matched with my team like I am here? Some of those things come into play, but yeah, if you've got like somebody's got a real strong growth motive, a lot of cases you need to look at them differently and go, this person may be a better partner than they are an employee. It just depends on their skill sets. I mean, then you start looking at skill sets, how your skill sets match up. And if you have something that's very unique that's outside of their skill set, then it may very well be a partnership that can go somewhere. But if I'm a growth motive and you're a growth motive, I have to be aware of that to go, some point down the line, we're probably going to clash on how we grow this company. And we need to probably head that off the path and go, how are we going to navigate those things? We're going to take turns. What's our process for getting through this? Because I know it's going to come up. I just don't know what it's going to be about.
Yep. So last thing, because I know I want to respect your time and just talk little bit about the scoring.
Yeah.
Because at this point, we talked about the coachable, reliable, motive, problem solving, personability, and superpower. So the interview ends. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's you, maybe it's like 3 people interviewed the person. How do you think about and do the scoring piece?
Right. So I'm going to self-score myself here. My superpower happens to be perseverance. Like I'll persevere through it. Like I said, 6 years of being bankrupt, and I just refused to take a job during that period of time. I'm pretty persistent and perseverant. And you need that as an entrepreneur if you want to go somewhere. Coachable, like I said before, I'm a 7 out of 10. Reliable, I might be cutting myself short here. I'm probably an 8 out of 10. My motive is really quite strong for the position that I'm in. Problem solving, I'm a very strong problem solver. I went to school for engineering. I love solving problems. Might sometimes go against me. Sometimes I create problems that didn't need to be problems. Personability, I'm introverted. So, I mean, it depends on who I'm hanging out with. Probably a 7 out of 10. I'm not like particularly charismatic, like just this hours. It's taking some energy out of me, so I'm not like outgoing.
I'm pushing to the limits on this.
Yeah, that's fine, to be quite honest with you. So here's my scoring. I don't know what this averages out to be, but I can tell you that it's above 8 out of 10. So we would add all these up. Well, it's like 15, 16, 24, 33, 40, 49 out of 60, whatever that comes out to be. And that would be my cramp score, which is better than 80%. So apparently I'm a fit for being the CEO of a advertising company. And I don't score under 7 out of 10 in any of these areas. And to be quite honest with you, one of the things that held me back, this is something I had to work on to get to the 7 out of 10, is I was probably 5.5, 6 on coachability. And that was really the thing that was holding me back for moving forward, because I couldn't reach out to get the right people's help when I needed it. And it was holding everything back. I was in pretty good shape the rest of the way. But that one was really holding me back. So.
When a team member is doing this, you're like, Shannon, you say, okay, Jane, you're interviewing this person. Here's the stuff. Here are the factors and the criteria. Do you give them some kind of guideline on, or is it kind of cut and dry? Because I feel like the reliable is almost like a pass fail a little bit.
Yeah,
so
coachable's pretty, like I said, if you take motive out of this and you have a panel of 6 people or whatever, you're going to get really consistent scores. Yeah. I mean, if people are just deliberately scoring in these areas, you might have some questions on superpowers. Some people will be like, oh, I see a superpower in that person. Other people are like, I don't necessarily see that. You can take that one out too. Where it does get tricky is in the motive part. And like I said, the motive is a skill. And the best way I've seen to get the skill, number one, is to start paying attention. I mean, you can go down to a coffee shop and just start listening to people. If you're an introvert like I am, you don't want to necessarily go out and talk to a bunch of people. You go to a coffee shop, you just listen to people. And if you're really just intentionally listening, you can start picking up on their motives just from what they're talking about. But I've found that like when we're having somebody else do the recruiting, that it really is an experience. It really is a mentorship, skill building opportunity. And what that means is like, by the time you get through, I'd say 20, 25 interviews, a person who's running the interviews and you're deliberately working with them on picking up on the motives and how they relate to the business, they're gonna be going, okay, all right, I'm starting to see how this is working. And most of the common motives, they're like, oh, yeah, that person's growth motive for sure. That person's creative motive. That person wants to please. Please motives are actually pretty dangerous, because the person who has a motive to please usually will do anything and everything they think will please that person. And it's not usually based on what that person actually needs. I've hired a number of those people. A lot of people probably have. And you're like, this person keeps doing what they think will make me pleased, but it's not the actual work that needs to be done. But like after 20, 25, they're like starting to hit their stride. And then you do get the odd ones that are like 1 in 10 or whatever. You're like, oh, that person, I'm not really getting it from that person. And there are some that you have to, I find sometimes I do have to jump in there and dig a little deeper. And there's some that can be masked. There's some tricky ones, but those in essence don't really matter a whole lot, because if it's not really clear, you're not really going to really be able to score them clearly, and they're probably not a clear fit for your business. So at that point, it becomes more of a academic exercise to really uncover what's unclear about this person's motive, just so we understand a little bit more and we get a little better next time.
So if someone, if it's hard, you're not sure what the motive is, sometimes that's a disqualifier, because you really want a motive to stand out. Yeah.
I can't think of the last, sometimes it takes me a bit of time to really put the pieces together on it, but I can't think of anybody that I haven't finally got to the bottom of what it is that really drives them. Thrill seeker motives. Thrill seeker motives, they tend to be very high performing people. Usually, I won't say usually. I see them quite often in the business world. They seek thrills through business. They tend to cap out at a certain level because they can't build a team, because they're always just trying to get this next thrill of putting a business deal together or whatever. They tend to be difficult to partner with, because if you think about it, and they've got a thrill seeker motive, you got to be there to scratch their itch all the time because they're always wanting a thrill. I'm not a really thrilling person to be a partner with, or, I'm just not. However, one of my best business partners actually does have a thrill seeker motive. And the way that our relationship works is that he's got a bunch of businesses. And he's like round robin, and he comes back around to me every week. I can give him another little thrill for how far we've gone in the business. And then he goes back and he does the circle of gloom and comes back to me. I can do that once a week. I can't do it every day, though. If we were in the same office, he'd drive me crazy. But he's an incredible, he's got incredible superpowers. So because I know his motive, I know exactly what makes him tick. I give him those little payoffs every time he sees me as best I can. We have a great relationship. But you have to know that a thrill seeker, otherwise it's you find it difficult to how do I sort of get in bed with this person? And it's difficult because you can't provide that thrill constantly. It just doesn't work. So
this has been, Shannon, fantastic. As you're talking, I'm doing a postmortem on people from our team who haven't worked out. And one thing that resonated with one person in my mind that, the team said, hey, it's weird. Like the person didn't work out. It was like 2 weeks. It was very apparent. And the team kept saying, it's weird. They're not asking questions. Like they should be asking questions at this point. They're not asking questions. And so, again, going back to the selection process, we should have picked up on that coachability piece, and that sticks out. So I appreciate you running through, because I'm sure we can go back through and do a postmortem and say, okay, what was the coachability? What was the reliability? What was the motive? Did it stick out? The problem solving, the personability, and the superpower, and actually do that. And there's a lot of nuances here that maybe will be in your book one day, because I'm sure you have specific questions you ask during the interview, and we can't go through everything that will uncover the motive and the problem solving and stuff like that. So
again, like people are trying to, I'm working on I'm attempting to make this into a process. 50% of me wants to think that it's possible. The other 50% of me wants to just go, look, you just have to get curious about it. You either have to work with me or somebody else who's got some skills in this. And again, like I said, after 25 reps on your prospecting, you're going to go, oh, I start to get the motive. The rest of these are very formulaic and pretty cut and dry. You could probably find them somewhere else in some other recruiting book or whatever. So the rest of them are really pretty easy to score. But the motive one it's not tricky. It's just, it is a skill. And everybody wants, will you show me the blueprint? There's a shortcut to it. I'm like, well, show me the shortcut to becoming a carpenter. There is, you have to go practice. You just have to practice it. It's not a monumental thing. You don't have to go get a PhD in it, but you have to get curious around it, and you have to start putting it together. And the post-mortem stuff, and that's how all this started. Because my partner and I started going post-mortem. We're like, okay, we got to come up with something. We got to explain all this phenomenon. It was too related to be just just bad luck. We got to be able to explain. And once we started getting onto this, once we started roughing it out, and then we go and apply it to the last post-mortem, we're like, oh, I totally see how her motive was just terrible for that position. It's so clear now. And then you go back through all of them. And when you go back through all of them and you go, I got them all figured out, and there's no question in my mind how come each one of these didn't work out, then you're like, now I get it. Now I get it. Now I know what I'm looking for. And this is how come I say, I think it's even better than 8 out of 10 we are now on our accuracy of, new hires or new partners, super accurate. And then you start just getting in a higher level of motive and really, really architecting how people's motives will work together. And then you can really get it. You can just get so much more out of people when you're not going against their motive in one way or another. You just take all the stuff out that's contrary or contradictory to their motive, and they just take off like a light bulb. like a lightning bolt because they're no longer held back by all this stuff. They're like, oh, I hate doing paperwork. When somebody is loves to organize, they love to do paperwork. You put any paperwork in front of a growth motive, they're like, oh God, I got to do more paperwork. You're just holding them back. So don't have them do any paperwork. Give them a VA who does all the paperwork for them and let them run. So
Shannon, I want to, last question is Lightfoot Media. I want you to, we could point people to check out more Lightfoot Media and a little bit about what you do there. Yeah. And before you go into that, what we just went through, I'm going to have to go back and listen to a few times because it really is a framework for hiring. And like you said, you made a good point, which is you could supplement it with some of the tactical questions and some of the, books people like is Who, by Jeff Smart, the A method for hiring. They give like specific interview questions there. And there's a book, Top Grading, by Brad Smart. So, you could supplement with other specific, okay, here are the questions, and then you can overlay it with the framework. So I just want to point that out.
The motive is really the unique piece. And to me, it's the game changer. The rest of it is really, you could probably find it in some other book. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So Lightfoot Media. Yeah. We could point people there to learn more, find out more, and just talk for a second about what you do there. Yeah.
So, Lightfoot Media is one of our companies, probably the oldest company that we have. And we do a lot of performance marketing. We do a lot of lead generation for mortgage companies, insurance companies, a lot of nationwide campaigns. It's pretty cut and dry stuff. That's where we first applied Crimps. I suppose it's one of the, if I were to put it on a business card, I'd probably put Lightfoot Media on there, but I'm now partner in a number of other companies. And I'd have to carry a whole bunch of business cards around with me, but a lot of them are marketing or marketing related because it's a great scalable. There's so many scalable opportunities. Marketing compliance is another big area we're into with one of our companies, and it's just.
Who are ideal partners for you? Because I know that you have a lot of partners.
Right. So the ideal partners for me are usually people who are already successful to a fairly significant level in whatever their area of expertise is, but they're experiencing this sort of I'm successful, but I can't sort of get over that hump thing. And I'm not a coach. I don't sell coaching packages. I don't do seminars. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm interested in partnerships where I can come in and go, look, I will come in. I will, maybe give some strategic business advice on the business model or things like that, if that's helpful. But yeah, a lot of it is like these the interpersonal dynamics of what the teams look like. And in many cases, you find people who are very successful in whatever they're doing, but they just can't build a team. Like they may have an assistant or something. They're like, I've tried hiring people before. Nobody's motivated, blah, blah, blah. All that team stuff's, for the birds. Well, it's just that you didn't have the skills to do it. I have the skills to do it. I can show you how to do it. I can teach you how to do it, obviously on a more partnership level. So the partnerships that come our way are just like various, like everybody needs people to make a business grow. And one of the biggest things that you really need if you want to be able to grow something really big is you need to be able to get teams that will duplicate themselves. We didn't go into much of that today, but it does have a lot to do with motive. If you really do your homework well and you put together a team well, you'll sort of get a biological growth effect where you build a really strong team. They're like a cell. They grow to a certain size and then they split. And then now you have two cells and they start growing themselves and you're not even around to, sometimes to even enjoy it. That's really like, if you want to build something big that requires a lot of people, that's really the level I think that you need to get to. I mean, there's plenty of companies out there who throw a ton of money towards staffing and they burn through people and there's all turnover and all that stuff. That's not my way of doing business. I just don't particularly care to engage in that. I'm really my business approach is much more so the tortoise's approach versus the hare. Funny thing about those tortoises, they end up winning the race. It's agonizing to be a tortoise and to see all the hares always jumping past you. There's always a hare who's jumping past you in one way or another. But yet, when you look back over a few-year period or whatever, you're the one who's winning the race. So ideal partner really is, obviously, they have to fit cramps. Like they have to be reasonably coachable. Like I don't want a 9 out of 10. Don't look at me for all the answers to all your questions. You can't be like that level coachable. You got to be a healthy dose of skepticism is required. And you got to fit the rest of these in the cramps. And then you got to be successful at what you do. Probably you have.
Is there a certain industry, Shannon, that?
I don't.
Because you mentioned mortgage.
I do a lot in the advertising industry, but like that's not really. It doesn't have to be in the advertising industry. It just happens to be where we've seen success. I really am interested in expanding our partnerships, and who knows? Nothing's off the table. Like if it's got to have scalability. Like I don't want to take somebody from $50K a month to $100K a month. Like that just doesn't. That's not exciting enough to me. Like it's got to have real scalability to it. Something where I guess another part of it is like because I've got this help motive. It's got to be something that really does help people and create win-wins. It can't be a one-sided thing. So yeah, that's just talking about my motives. It's got to be really growable, and we got to be able to help people in doing it. And those strike my motive. I'll get up early to be on conference calls for that kind of stuff.
I guess we'll point people to, if they want to learn more, go to lightfootmedia.com and start there. Yeah,
absolutely. You can fill out the form. It actually goes straight to my desk. Who knows? Maybe I have to redirect it if we get too much traffic from you guys.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This was an impromptu recording of this, so really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. If you need any follow-ups or you think of other people who could benefit from it, happy to share the knowledge. I think we might have cut that part out at the beginning. Like I don't really have any hidden agendas here. I really just I want people to be able to have more effective teams of businesses and more cohesive and harmonious team environments. Happy to share in that respect. And I'm looking to increase expand our partnerships. But aside from that, I don't have any hidden agenda. So by all means, if you find somebody who can benefit from this, do share it.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I feel like $100 grand.